My background really is in marketing and advertising. I learnt something of my trade with Roundtree Mackintosh, with some great brands, and then went into advertising agencies for 12 years. The reason I'm here today really is what happened after that, when my business partner John Barnes and myself came across each other, because John was running KFC in the UK, and I was at Young & Rubicam, the advertising agency, and we were working on the KFC business. And when we saw the market research for KFC versus other types of fast food, fish and chips always came out and scored very highly indeed. So we decided to try and see if we could raise some money and go off and build a brand in fish and chips. And we ended up buying the original Harry Ramsden's restaurant, and 12 years later we'd managed to build 70 restaurants in 7 countries. Our brand awareness from 17% to 73%. And we never spent any money on advertising. We marketed the business, and that's where we came across this thing we call marketing judo. Marketing judo arose really by accident, because we were doing things to build the Harry Ramsden's business. We had a very clear vision. We wanted Harry Ramsden's to be the world's most famous brand of fish and chips. And after opening 4 restaurants in the UK, we decided we needed to go to Hong Kong or somewhere overseas to be able to demonstrate that we were indeed international. And when we opened in Hong Kong, our manager there, Dave Hardy, we met and were talking to, and Dave had a very interesting background, because before he started running restaurants, he'd had a life as a bodyguard, and he was a judo black belt. He said, you guys, in building the business, you're using the principles of judo. And so we said, well, what does that mean? And he said, well, in judo, it's leverage, movement and balance, the 3 core principles. And you're using all of those instinctively to build Harry Ramsden's. It's all about skill and not size. And it's all about using skill to throw, if you like, competitors who are bigger than yourselves. So we really liked it, and we got as much information from Dave as we could, and we started to study. And then we came up with this phrase, using marketing judo, and developed some of the moves. There are 7 moves of marketing judo, and they use, as I say, the 3 key principles, and based on leverage, movement and balance. But the first one doesn't use any of those. The first one, as at least I say to my audience, if nothing else, they'll learn some words of Japanese. Kihon wo todashiku, and it means get the basics right. Because if you go on the judo mat untrained, not only will you lose, you'll hurt yourself. You can't be a black belt overnight, and yet so many times, particularly SMEs, try and be black belts overnight without putting necessarily all the work and all the effort and all the necessity of making sure that they are delivering every time what their promise is to their customer. Well, partnerships and picking the right partner is move 2 of marketing judo, and it's the first leverage move, which is using the weight of others to your advantage. The slight difference here is that the word partnership is I think, very overused, and people who are companies or that are in partnership with others don't necessarily always feel it's a proper partnership. There's often an element of win-lose. So getting that consistent win-win relationship is really the fundamental part of picking the right partner. And it's not easy. And you are going to pick the wrong partners from time to time, but it's recognizing that both parties have to keep winning consistently over time, which is how long, successful partnerships are built. And partners will make mistakes. You will make mistakes, they will make mistakes. So you have to address those and see whether they can be put right. In choosing the right opponent, which is move 3 in marketing judo, we very much like in the smaller businesses to focus on the sloth, or sloth as they call it over in Scotland. The sloth is an animal that sleeps 23 hours out of 24, it's lazy, and it has gone to sleep basically. And the business comparison is a company perhaps that was once great, but has lost its way, literally has fallen asleep, and is using sloth, if you like, a sloth mentality. You can tell a sloth company because they tend to be very much in their ivory towers and talking to themselves, and that they've forgotten their customers and are not looking after them as they should do. There's opportunities there for smaller, medium-sized enterprises who are focused, then focus on the sloths, but be careful because not all big companies are sloths. We came across this character called Anton Geesink, who's a Dutchman in Judo, who was the only guy to win a gold medal in the 1964 Olympics when Judo was an Olympic sport in Japan, Tokyo, for the first time. And every other medal was won by a Japanese except for the open class where Anton Geesink won. And he was 6'6", 18 stone and fast as lightning. And he showed that when there was a very big company, very fast, very skilled, then they would defeat lighter opponents. The fourth move of marketing judo is getting the crowd on your side. And that's all about emotional leverage. In sports, and judo is no exception, the crowd can really lift the players or the team on the pitch and make a huge difference. People talk in football terms about the 12th man, and in judo terms, it's really feeling that the crowd wants you to win, because we're all human beings. And when we feel supported and people are behind us and enthusiastic about what we're doing, then it can have an energy and helps develop the whole passion for what you're trying to do. Clearly your crowd could be your customers, and we all know just how important word of mouth recommendation is to building a business because of the value of that. It could be your suppliers. When you're small and times are tight, wow, anybody who's prepared to give you a little bit more credit, do something extra for you, makes a big difference to whether you survive or not. And so to have your suppliers genuinely supporting you and believing in what you're doing, as we had, makes a big difference. Our fifth move is use your size to your advantage, which is all about essentially movement and speed of movement. And we've got 3 F words, all of them polite: fit, fast and focused. Fitness for us was all about training and making sure that, if you like, our staff knew what was expected of them and could deliver the customer promise consistently. Fast is all about speed of decision making. It ought to be possible for us as SMEs to make decisions quickly. And focused is all about not trying to do too many things at the same time. It's focus upon what you're going to make you famous. At Harry Ramsden's we didn't do anything other than fish and chips. That was what our focus was. The move 6 is the first of the balance moves, which is how to, if you like, unbalance your competitors, or indeed unbalance your customers in a nice way or your staff in a nice way, and by doing the unexpected. I think when you're smaller and you've got to differentiate yourselves, one of the ways you can differentiate yourselves is a level of service that perhaps customers haven't expected. It can be little things that can just make the difference. It doesn't have to be very big things. There's a story of a gentleman who had been to our takeaway in Bournemouth and had cold chips, Mr. Spoonley, and he wrote one on the comment cards to say that he was disappointed, and he'd put a mobile number on, and we rang him up on his mobile number. The thing that amazed him was the fact that he'd just spent a huge amount of money on a very expensive new car, and a couple of little niggles that hadn't gone right, and could he get hold of the dealer to correct them? No. And yet here was a director of Harry Ramsden's ringing him up about cold chips, which I think had cost him £1.20. The last move in marketing judo is about keeping your balance. And it's the only defensive move in marketing judo, because if you're off balance or caught off balance by something a competitor has done or something that you've made a bad error or mistake, or something's happened to knock you off balance, it's very difficult to think on your feet when you're off balance. So it's much better to try and anticipate what those things could be. Sometimes for SMEs we're so busy doing that we don't anticipate what might go wrong, and also perhaps are we being negative and so on. It's only for a session, and once you've got it out of the way, hopefully then you've got something to have in the locker in case something comes along. In judo, they teach you, the first thing they teach you is how to fall so you don't hurt yourself. Sometimes something will happen where it's better to take a fall and get up with renewed energy than it is to try and go on, because retrieving a situation where you'll never be back on balance because something actually is fundamentally wrong. To help people understand the framework, we've kind of broken things down into 7 moves. But of course, when you're playing judo, you're using leverage, movement and balance all at the same time. You're not differentiating as to which are which. And I think one of the great examples was within Harry Ramsden's, was done by some franchise partners we had in South Wales, in Cardiff, when the new Harry Ramsden's in Cardiff Bay was built. There was due to be a new Welsh National Opera House built at the same time, but that got delayed. And our partners knew Welsh National Opera people very well. And so they said, well, I'm sorry about not having the Opera House, but why don't you stage an evening of opera at Harry Ramsden's? We've got the chandeliers, we've got the stained glass windows, we've got fantastic views over the bay. And so that's what it was. It was a publicity stunt. It was a PR event, if you like, where all the media were invited, all the great and good of Cardiff were invited to dress up as if they were going to Covent Garden. And they did. They were there in their dinner jackets and long frocks and everything else. And they had an evening of opera and fish and chips, which was a huge success. It was filmed by the television, and the radio was there. And the next day, I tried to ring our franchise partners to say congratulations on what was a great PR event, and they'd moved quickly and they'd done the unexpected and all these things. And eventually I got through in the afternoon and to congratulate George, one of our partners, and said I'd been trying to get through on the phone, and he said, I'm sorry, the phone has been ringing off the hook from customers asking when the next evening of opera and fish and chips is going to be. And I said, oh, what are you going to do about that? He said, don't worry, Richard. Next Monday, which is Monday nights are graveyards for restaurants, 200-seater. I've sold out next Monday and the next 3 Mondays, and we're calling it Opera and Chips, charging £20 a head, and we're sold out. And that, I thought, was just fantastic entrepreneurship, using marketing judo instinctively, of doing all those things. They got the basics right because they had a fantastic offer. And they leveraged the local media. They did all those things brilliantly. So Opera and Chips, I think, is one of the best examples. Thank you.